National Film Board's up-to-the-minute report on what's going on somewhere in Canada. This week and every week, NFB camera crews are on the spot where things are happening, recording the varied and colorful life of Canadians. Tonight, we invite you to join a Film Board crew with Fred Davis on another location.
This is Fred Davis speaking to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. There are many interesting aspects to this city. It's the gateway to the Orient, it has an excellent harbor, and its moderate climate produces very little snow. But in today's on-the-spot assignment, we'd like to introduce you to an unusual citizen of Vancouver. His name is Doug Hepburn, and his address is 916 Commercial Drive. There's nothing unusual about the street or the number. Commercial Drive is an ordinary thoroughfare on the east side, such as you will see in any Canadian city. Nor is there anything unusual about number 916. It's a gymnasium operated by one Nick Kreshniski. Here the local strongmen, weightlifters, and bodybuilders assemble, go through their paces, and talk shop. Here, too, is to be found Doug Hepburn. However, there is something unusual about him. He is known as the strongest man in the world.
Say, look at that.
Hell, Braun, no brains.
Yeah, but some people got neither.
The average man has always looked with suspicion upon strong men, considering them to be freaks of nature, abnormal beings. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, many strong men started out life as weak or handicapped children, objects of ridicule by their classmates. So for some, it was a real struggle toward physical perfection. In the terms of the sport, this is known as making it the hard way. Doug Hepburn is one of those who made it the hard way. Although that weight he's lifting now is about 550 pounds, down below, his underdeveloped right leg is a reminder of his early school days when other kids made fun of his deficiency. Perhaps that is why you rarely find bullies among really strong men. Another common misconception is that the exercises in which strong men or weightlifters indulge are unnatural, that they put a strain on the body that it wasn't intended to take. Doug, I understand that you don't follow that claim about exercises like this and the use of the muscles being unnatural.
No, this is a completely natural exercise, and it's one of the best ways to develop the body.
Well, everybody is born with the same set of muscles, is that so?
That's correct, but some people, these muscles lie dormant and are not brought into play. Whereas in the lifter, every muscle in the body is utilized, and they increase in size.
How do you explain this sort of underdevelopment of the average man? Can you blame that on civilization or something like that?
Well, you could, because in this day of this mechanical age, they don't utilize their muscles anymore because they have cars and other ways of traveling and so on. They don't even walk very much anymore. And these muscles aren't enlarged as they should be.
Well, how about in the case of a fellow who does manual labor? It's possible then that he wouldn't be fully developed, eh?
Oh, that's quite possible.
What about these muscles? Could you explain them to me?
Well, I'm more of a weightlifter myself, and at this, I'd like to bring over Roy Hilligenn, whose muscles are very defined, and he will pose, and I'll point them out for you.
Fine.
Roy won the Mr. America title in 1951. Roy, would you care to show Fred here the various muscle groups? Okay, we'll start from the top. First, there are the pectoral muscles of the chest. Next, the trapezius muscles behind the neck. The deltoid muscles of the shoulders. The bicep muscles on top of the arms. The tricep muscles on the back of the arms. The rhomboidus muscles of the upper back. The latissimus muscles on the side of the back. The abdominals, muscles of the stomach. Vastus muscles of the thighs. And the calf muscles.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, well, let's change the subject. Doug, who is this fellow up here on the trapeze?
Bill Kovatis.
Corvatis, is that right?
That's right.
Bill, Doug tells me that you had a movie named after you. Is that right?
That is correct.
What's the idea of this trapeze work?
Oh, I'm getting in condition for my new act.
What is that?
Oh, I'm suspending a pair of flying rings on a trapeze from a helicopter, working about 1,000 feet up.
From a helicopter, and this is the way you condition yourself, is it, before you get up in the air?
That's the general idea.
That sounds like a thrilling way to make a living. Doug, is there any basic difference between weightlifting and bodybuilding?
Yes, there is. The weightlifter is concerned primarily with development of strength, whereas the physique man is interested solely in physique development.
I see. Well, how do you go about developing these muscles?
By various specialized exercises. Bill here is about to do a deep knee bend.
And what muscles does that bring into play?
This exercise influences the muscles of the lower body, especially of the hips, thighs, and lower back, which, incidentally, these muscles are the largest in the whole body.
I see. And what other exercises are there?
Well, there's the two hands clean and press. This lift is primarily a test of pure shoulder strength and is used in the Olympic Games as a competitive lift. It requires more strength and skill. Then there's the two-hand deadlift, where stress is placed upon the muscles of the lower back, thighs, and the upper region of the shoulders. You'll notice that he uses the reverse grip. This prevents the bar from rolling in the hands. On the other hand, there is the bench press. The weightlifter simply lies on a bench, lowers the bar to his chest, and from there presses it to arm's length. This movement develops the muscles of the chest and arms. Of course, there are many variations to these exercises.
I see. Doug, as a novice, I've always been interested in these barbells. What does this one weigh?
You try it for yourself.
I'll try. Well, I know I can't lift it. How much did you say it weighed?
Same as I do, 280 pounds.
280. Let me see you lift it.
All right.
Doug, I noticed earlier that there are different techniques in lifting. Which is the technique that enables you to lift the greatest weight over your head?
The two hands clean and jerk.
Who? What is that again?
The two hands clean and jerk.
What does that mean?
Well, that's in the terminology of weightlifters. It means taking the weight from the floor in one movement to the shoulders and from the shoulders to overhead in another movement.
Do you feel like going through that one for me?
All right.
Man, that's another accomplishment. Is that your limit there? Were you lifting your limit?
No.
What is your limit on that particular movement?
380 pounds.
Is that one of your world records?
No, it isn't, but I hold 6 other world records.
I heard that you were in Stockholm last August for the world, is it, what do you call them, world championships?
World championships, yes.
What did you accomplish there?
I won first place.
And countries from all over the world send their weightlifters to these tournaments, do they?
There were 16 countries represented there.
Does that include the Russians?
Yes. The Russians had a full team.
And what kind of opponents are they?
Well, they won first place, and they're tops.
Why is it that they've got such good athletes? Is there any particular reason in the weightlifting field?
Well, they have a great deal of interest over there in athletics. There's, I guess there's up maybe 2 or 3 million lifters over in Russia lifting.
So in that case, they'd have quite a choice to send their top men to championships, wouldn't they?
That's right.
If they're that interested, then I imagine they would know about you since you hold a world record there.
Well, I'm probably known better over there than I am here in Canada.
Not so loud, the Mounties might be watching. Well, Doug, I'd say you'd earned a rest for a moment. Obviously, strength and muscles hold the spotlight around here. But there's another aspect of the place I'd like to introduce you to now. Time was when a gymnasium of this sort was strictly a man's world, but not anymore. The young lady of today is ever conscious of her appearance. Here in the weightlifters' domain, the girls adapt the exercises and gym equipment to aid them in improving figure contours, suppleness, and poise. Of course, they're not interested in breaking any weightlifting records, but then they don't have to. Getting back to the subject of accomplishments in strength, you've probably all seen pictures and examples of sensational stunts. Our friend Doug Hepburn has his own ideas about this. Doug, this business of fellows climbing up telegraph poles with horses on their backs and bending coins in their hands and breaking chains, is that all legitimate?
Well, Fred, some are phony. Some tricks require considerable strength, and others are easier than they look.
Well, the ones that are easier than they look, what would be an example of a trick like that?
Well, for instance, take this tomato juice tin here. Watch this.
I see. Well, that's certainly clear enough. What about the phony tricks, Doug? What kind of a trick would fall in that category?
Oh, take bending coins, for instance, especially a 50-cent piece. There's been numerous old-time strongmen who were capable of this feat, but in those days the metal was of an inferior quality and not the metal that we use today.
So that you couldn't take a modern 50-cent coin and bend it between your fingers or in the palm of your hand?
No, the flesh wouldn't be able to stand the pressure put it on. It would simply tear.
Well, how about these fellows that break chains? Is that a legitimate trick?
No, it's a trick. There have been several strongmen that could break small chains. With the larger ones, there's a trick involved there. The last link is filed through, and solder is put in the space, and the chain is passed among the crowd, and they're asked to pull on the end of it to test the strength. Naturally, the pressure isn't put on the last link. And the chain is returned to the strongman. He places it around his chest, joins the two last links together, expands his chest, and breaks the chain.
Oh, that's how it's done. Well, what about the fellow that climbs up the telegraph pole with the horse strapped to his back? That takes real strength, doesn't it?
Yes, it takes a considerable amount of strength. However, there's a knack to this trick due to the fact that the steps in the pole are spaced very closely together, and the strongman inches his way up to the top.
Does that mean, then, that if he used a regular telegraph pole with the wide steps, that he couldn't make it?
No, he couldn't, although he's a very strong man.
Well, how does this accomplishment compare to weightlifting?
It requires a lot more strength for a champion weightlifter to do a deep knee bend. Personally, I don't go in for these stunts myself. Have a cigar.
Well, thanks a lot, Doug. And I'm afraid with that, it's time for us to leave. This is Fred Davis speaking to you from the Grand View Gymnasium in Vancouver, where we've been visiting with the world's strongest man, Doug Hepburn. Join us again next week at this same time when the National Film Board will again present another Canadian on-the-spot story.
Head to www.goldenerabook'em.com for the biggest range of classic old-school bodybuilding books as ebooks, e-magazines such as Iron Man and Reg Park Journal, high-quality bodybuilding posters of the Golden Era stars, merchandise and classic gymwear featuring Steve Reeves, Marvin Eder, John Grimmick, Reg Park, and many other Golden Era stars. For those wishing to build a classic physique, lose fat and build muscle, online training is also available. Collectibles such as rare autographed photos from the Golden Era stars are also available, and to collaborate, please get in touch. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these 3 books, I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles. But how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these 3 books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookham.com.